God will always take care of us. God will always take care of us.
Amen.
All right. Okay, just a few words. Just want to talk about leadership a little bit. Everything rises and falls on it in our lives, being a leader. When individuals are decisive and able to make the necessary hard choices, we call them leaders. There are people we want to be with. There are people we respect. There are people we want to follow. Walking by faith, the congregational process in which we are currently participating, involves many things. Faith, of course, involves knowledge of Jesus Christ, a passion to love Him, a desire to follow Him. After all, Jesus is our leader. Now, since Jesus is our leader, perhaps it's helpful for us to consider our faith by asking the question, what does it mean to be a leader? Once we know what a leader is and what a leader does, then we will gain insight into Jesus, our greatest leader of leaders. And when we find out what a remarkable leader He is, we will then be better equipped to follow the leader. President Dwight Eisenhower once said, "Leadership is the art of getting someone else to do something you want done because he wants to do it." Kind of like that. It demonstrates one of the key tasks of leadership, to bring others to the same passion as the leader. That's why Jesus was such a good one. He had a passion so broad, so deep, so amazing, that there was nothing that would keep him from realizing his passion. Not only did he dedicate his life to it, but he gave up everything, including his life, to realize that passion. All we need to do to discover what that passion was is to see Jesus on the cross. His passion was simply to love us with everything. I mean, everything he had. When Jesus spoke the words of the text, he not only knew his passion, he also knew the depth of his conviction. Notice how Jesus, as the leader, lays it all on the line. He tells us we have a choice. We can try to avoid pain and risk, that is to save one's life, and lose out on the joy He has planned for us. Or we can decide to finally move forward, following Jesus, no matter what the cost. The choice isn't without consequences, and that's why He says, "What good is it for a man to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit his very self?" If you think you're going to have joy and happiness by gaining everything in the world, Jesus would tell us, think again. The real joy comes by following our faith-driven heart. When we discover God's will, seek God's will, and follow Jesus' will for us, regardless of the cost, we're on our way to real joy. With these words, it's almost as if Jesus is saying, take a look at your life. Take a hard look. Now make a decision. Do you want to lose yourself, or do you want to have a soul filled with joy? And that's where walking by faith begins, because it's hard to give up everything and just trust God. When we depend on Him for everything, we risk something that we can't lose. That's right. Risk it all. Place yourself in God's hands completely. At first sight, it seems like quite a risk. But when we place ourselves into God's hands, we just can't lose. That's the critical issue which will determine if we follow Jesus. Can you place yourself in God's hands? If you're not sure, here's 3 simple steps. First, decide to follow Jesus. Second, decide to take the first step. And third, and most important, take the first step. Now this is from leadership guru Charles S. Lauer. I really liked what he says. He said, leaders don't force people to follow. They invite them on a journey. This Lent, Jesus is inviting you on the journey, a journey of faith. It's a journey which begins with our baptism. It's a journey that ultimately leads to the cross of Christ and his empty tomb. But whether the journey will be one of pain and disappointment or one of joy, it's your choice. A little boy prayed to God, "Dear God, I bet it's very hard for you to love everybody in the whole world. There are only 4 people in my family, and I'm having a hard time loving all of them." God doesn't have trouble loving you. We're confident in that. Now, on this journey of Lent, God calls us to take that confidence to another level. Take the next step of discipleship. Follow him, trust in him, and go for the joy. May God enable you to walk by faith, not sight, and determine in this hour to follow him where he leads you. Amen.
Everyone knows how to play?
Yeah, except you don't exactly have to say Simon says. You can just say whoever the person's name is.
Like Brian says?
I'm Simon. You gotta do whatever Simon says, right? And you only do it when Simon says something. When Simon says to do something, then you do. So, Simon says, take 2 steps forward. Simon says, take 2 steps back. Simon says, clap your hands. Good. You guys are good. Simon says, touch your nose. Wave to the congregation. I got 2 of yous.
No Simon.
Okay.
No.
Simon says, turn around in the circle twice. Simon says, turn around and walk up the steps. Look up. Simon says, march down the steps.
You won.
Played with my grandchildren.
Where'd he go?
Where did he go?
I think he went that way.
He's right over there.
Well, he
I
left.
find him. I can find him. Not you.
Why were you without telling us?
It's so hard to know who we should follow, isn't it?
Wow, this sounds a lot like the disciples after the crucifixion, doesn't it? Like 2 people on the road to Emmaus, lost and confused about what direction their life should take without their leader. Then, out of the fog of death and loss comes the sound of his voice, the sight of his face, the touch of his side, and suddenly they know their leader is with them again.
Maybe we were following the wrong leader.
It's so hard to know who we should follow, isn't it?
That's the hard part. All sorts of people will pull you in their direction, offering all sorts of rewards and promises. Great orators will hold you spellbound. Smiling personalities will entice you to the smooth life for a fee. If you listen carefully, though, the calm, steady voice of God will come through as the truth that exposes the other voices for what they are. Shallow, misleading, and even dangerous.
So, we see the way. But who's to lead us on that way? How do we choose a leader? What makes Christ better than other leaders?
Well, let's follow the Simon Says idea again and compare the voice of Christ with the voices of others. Someone will say,
our God is a jealous, demanding God. So our religious laws are many and very strict. Obey them to the letter, so you can be one of us.
Christ says only 2 laws are needed to cover every aspect of your life. Love God completely and show that same love to others. Laws don't create love. Love creates love. Someone will say,
we gather together to solve the world's problems. Surely our God-given minds are capable. God expects us to handle life by ourselves. Just think of the marvelous discoveries and accomplishments we've made by using our minds.
Christ says, the mind is an amazing thing, but to worship it as is like following a road to a bridge and never crossing over. Minds are limited. God is not. Someone will say,
Only our country is capable of keeping this world on a meaningful course. Why do those from other cultures keep pushing in where they don't belong? Who do they think they are anyway?
Christ says, and who do you think you are? God creates variety, not superiority. Your arrogance only shows how insecure you are. You stay on top as long as you hold others down. Accept others as you, and they are created, one in the Spirit. Someone will say,
Hey, you only live once, so live it up. Do whatever you want to as long as it makes you happy. Reach for the good life. It's out there for everyone. Get your share.
Christ says, what a shallow concept of living. The life I offer is far beyond any share you might grasp. Don't settle for living on the surface. Someone will say,
Join us and we'll put you in touch with nature and your inner self.
Christ says, come with me and I'll lead you to the creator of nature and of your inner self. But don't stop there. Your inner life was meant to be a source of help and inspiration to others. Share yourself. Let God shine through. Now, to the followers, if you're looking for an easy problem way, don't follow Christ. But if you're willing to keep your eye on him and follow this leader through any situation life can throw at you, you'll find it all worthwhile. That's where faith comes in. Believe me. Oh, there'll be signposts along the way. You'll find them in the people who walk that way too. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, humility, inner strength, faithfulness, self-control. It's not an easy way, but you'll be living a life of full dimension. So, choose the leader you will follow. As for me and this household, we're choosing Christ.
Amen.